Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to FOL Justice Forum on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Focus on Liberia Justice Forum, we're going to be looking at land and land ownership in Liberia. Almost anyone watching this broadcast tonight might have heard of issues with land ownership in Liberia. Either somebody is taking someone's land, or there is a land dispute somewhere, or there's something about land that has affected you or that you've heard of. Tonight, we want to see everything legal surrounding the ownership of land in Liberia, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight on Focus on Liberia. This is FOL Justice Forum, where we discuss the legal issues in our country as they impact the lives of the people. The presenter tonight, I'm just a moderator, is Councilor Frederick A.B. Jewell, who's joining us from Colorado, Denver, that is. Councilor Jewell, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here again.
And Councilor, the issue of land ownership in Liberia. Tell me your story. I know almost every Liberian, especially those living in America, will have something to do with land ownership issue in Liberia. Just in 30 seconds, what's your story?
You know, as a lawyer, I have had a lot of stories. One of the key things that I think we should pay attention to, or people who following this program should pay attention to, is the purchasing of land. From whom do you buy the land? What do you do when you buy the land? Do you take your deed with you, as particularly our brothers and sisters living in the United States and the developed world? Do you take your deed? I've had people buying and rebuying and rebuying and buying and paying. Paying means that the last person that will come to you to say the land is mine, he will allow you to stay on the land, but then you will have to pay him as an appeasement, almost the entire amount of money, or even half, 1.5 times what you pay for your land. And so it is a mess. Government trying to fix it, but people who buy land they don't feel that they should contact lawyer before they buy the land. And so they end up losing at all in most cases.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. We're going to be discussing that whole issue that had to do with land and land ownership in Liberia. The show you are watching is the FOL Justice Forum, and the topic tonight is land and land ownership in Liberia. Before we get to that topic, we always like to open our discussion with a current issue, a current legal issue that is going on in the country. We touch on that briefly, and then we go into our today's topic. So invite your friends, share the show, and welcome to FOL Justice Forum. Now, Councilor, things are, legal issues are happening every day in the country. Quite recently, we have a group in Liberia called the CPP, Collaborating Political Parties. They have their framework. According to them, the framework document says if you leave the CPP, you cannot field a candidate in your party's name. So the Unity Party and the ALP, that is the Unity Party of Joseph Boakai and the ALP of Benina Ure left. And so the remaining parties in the CPP took them to court, says, since you left us, you can't field a candidate. This means you cannot put forth a candidate in the LOFA by elections. And who they were talking to? The Unity Party. So now the NEC rule in this case. They say, hey, and that's the ruling. I want you to tell me really what this means. It's a long document. They give the background of the whole case and everything else. At the end of it, they give something, they started with the wherefore. And I want to show that, put that on the screen so that you can walk me through really what this means. Because I, as a non-lawyer, I don't understand it. Here it is. After talking all the different things, they say, wherefore, and in view of the foregoing, and so has to allow the opportunities for the Honorable Supreme Court to passively consider the constitutional questions raised in this manner, the National Elections Commission, NEC, is hereby prohibited from taking any further action on any endorsement, form, or other documents put forth by defendants herein regarding the fielding of a candidate otherwise determined. I want to also let you know that prior to this ruling, the NEC came out with a preliminary list of those who will contest in the by-election of in Lofa County, and the name of the candidate from the Unity Party was not on that list. So when they came up with this one, I want to understand from you, Councillor Jewe, first of all, does the NEC have the jurisdiction to have a hearing on this case? And what does this ruling mean?
You know, the NEC regulates election process and election processes, but the NEC does not determine how political parties are formed and how they are structured. And in addition to that, the NEC, as an administrative agency, not a court, has no authority to determine rights and responsibilities of parties. The case that NEC conducted hearing in, I understand that when Musa Belete and Mr. Cummings, Musa Belete, his group, and Mr. Cummings filed a complaint, actually wrote a letter. In the letter, they wanted to have clarity for NEC. Since Unity Party has withdrawn, ALP has withdrawn, whether Unity Party can feed candidate in its name. They want a clarification. Surprisingly, the NEC decided to hold a regular hearing, selected a hearing officer,
Right.
and decided to go into what Belete and Mr. Cummings were complaining about. Prior to the case itself going to trial, the lawyers representing representing the Unity Party and ALP filed a motion to dismiss on ground of lack of jurisdiction. The hearing officer refused to sustain that motion, denied and rejected the motion, and the matter went on appeal to the commissioner, board of commissioners. So the way they are set up is that there are hearing officers below them, and they are all 7 commissioners consider themselves as a board of commissioners. They heard the appeal and upheld the ruling of the hearing officer at the time, I think was Teach Jallo. And then T. Jallo was changed, and one Councillor Attorney Format Soiree was then designated to continue with the matter. They went ahead and put the Belete wing, put a couple of witnesses on the stand. And when it came to the Unity Party and ALP putting witnesses on the stand, they filed a motion for judgment during trial. And what the trial judge did was to, I guess, incorporate the motion and the final hearing and enter a judgment. Said many things, which lawyers refer to as dictum. The judgment itself is referred to as a judgment. But things said along the way, atomization of the process, and statement made during that will be considered dictum. And so, but finally, he said that NEC is prohibited from hearing this case because making further decision in this case because the matter is constitutional,
Right.
meaning that the challenge to 8.52 is constitutional, and so the Supreme Court should be given the authority. You are filing the matter or transferring the case to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Decide whether 8.52 is constitutional, not constitutional. But interestingly, he also said in that wherefore that NEC would not list the candidate for Unity Party. That is what Ability and ANC have wanted that the candidate for UP will not be listed. And so, even though the matter is ordered transferred to the Supreme Court, the Unity Party and its lawyers, Unity Party, ALP, and their lawyers have appealed to the Board of Commissioners. And I think that appeal is assigned for Wednesday this week. I'm not sure what would the NEC do, but the matter will finally get to be put to rest by the Supreme Court. So again, legally, the hearing officer is wrong. You cannot say that you don't have jurisdiction to go into the case and yet make a decision.
Exactly.
And say that you can't list the other party. That's the center, that's the crust of the matter. And he had already made decisions saying that party candidate will not be listed. Unity Party candidate will not be listed until the Supreme Court can decide that. What it implies to me is that the NEC may want to hold the election on May 10 as it has scheduled while the case is pending before the Supreme Court.
And even before that time, right? They never listed the Unity Party candidate on the list. The name is not on the list.
Yep.
They went to the Supreme Court, so it means they took the decision already.
Oh yeah.
So now you have a case, and you say, well, this case, the Supreme Court, only the Supreme Court can decide. But the decision I took before the case, that decision still stands, and I'm not putting your name on the list.
You know, Liberia has a problem. Liberia professionals have integrity issue. I'm aware that some hearing officers or even some judges will go so far of being able to give the final decision in a case to certain lawyers to go and write the decision and return it, which is illegal. In this case, it appears that NEC wants, and as they did prior to when they produced a preliminary list for people who could contest in Lofa County, they have already decided that the Unity Party candidate would not be listed. And that decision was just upheld by the hearing officer. And I would not be surprised that the NEC will also uphold the NEC Board of Commissioners will uphold the erroneous ruling by the hearing officer, and this matter will get to the Supreme Court.
But Councillor, should the NEC be hearing this case in the first place? Because the first thing that was filed was, hey, you don't have the jurisdiction. That what the Unity Party contended. Was the Unity Party right?
Well, yeah, legally, you know, when the issue of jurisdiction can be raised after pleadings have rested, meaning the complaint, the answer, and the reply are all filed and pending before the hearing officer or before a court of record. Or if it was not raised at that time, it can be raised during trial. So the judge or the hearing officer on his own motion can take judicial notice of the fact that the interpretation and the declaration of rights under 8.52 is out of the authority of the NEC. So it should have dismissed the case. It did not. That's why the matter is traveling. I think what they believe is that they can hold the election while the matter travels to the Supreme Court, you cannot. Because unless you have stupid lawyers before you, lawyers who are not attentive, then when you start to hold that election, they will allow you to hold it. Because what will happen is, if I'm lawyer in the case, I would wait and see whether any motion for the holding of the election on the 10th of May is going on, meaning that ballot papers being carried to local county. I'll file a writ of prohibition, petition for a writ of prohibition to stop the entire process, and have the NEC to come to court and determine what authority it has after it has transferred the case in question to the Supreme Court,
And
usurping the right of the Supreme Court.
you just preempted my question, because so what's going to happen now is the case is going before the Board of Commissioners. Said if the Board of Commissioners say, hey, we can't handle this, they have to go to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Supreme Court is a constitutional matter, so they may look into it now before May 10 or not, or let's say June. So what's going to happen before the Supreme
No, this
Court?
is an election matter, so it will be prioritized.
Right, and prioritize is relative, right? Prioritize could be June.
Well, no, the Supreme Court is under responsibility to hear the case within 3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days.
I mean, they don't have a rule of court that says that, but they traditionally they have been putting forward all election matter before the court. You know, if the Board of Commissioners are smart people, they will if they want to sustain the judgment of the hearing officer,
Right.
they will sustain the judgment with modification. Remove that portion that say the listing of Unity Party candidate will not be part of this judgment, will not be listed, because you don't have the authority to do that.
Right.
As long as you see the matter is forwarded to the Supreme Court, then you can't say anything else. But again, I know that Unity Party and ALP got some good lawyers. I will watch and see what they will do. And what election commission will do. Would they leave it for election commission to hold election in local county? Because this is not just the candidate in local county for this time. It is an attempt to stop ALP, the Unity Party, from feeding any candidate. Joseph Boakai, what you call it, man, Ure, they will be back from participating. That's what they are doing right now.
In 2023.
Yeah, that's the purpose of that.
Right. So has the case traveled to the Supreme Court? Hopefully, let's say that ruling is upheld by the commissioner. Has the case traveled to the Supreme Court? Everything on the May 10 by-election should stop.
Yes. Because the Supreme Court takes immediate jurisdiction. And because it is a superior court or an administrative agency that is subordinate to the Supreme Court, they will have to stop. Now, if they don't stop, I'm sure the lawyer will cause them to stop.
But if they don't stop, but do they require anything from the Supreme Court before they stop, or just by virtue of Supreme Court picking up the case, they should stop?
No, there will be if it is an appeal, there will be the party will be cited.
Right, but nobody is appealing, right? And that's something too I wanted to understand. The election NEC is saying, hey, take this case to the Supreme Court. Normally, I thought the lawyers going to make the appeal. You I don't. I'm thinking they were going to say, hey, we don't have jurisdiction, but they are directing the group to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So the lawyer in the lower before the hearing officer already announced appeal, but because of the structural arrangement of the NEC, appeal from the hearing officer does not go directly to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
It goes to the Board of Commissioners. So when the Board of Commissioners rule, consider that, assuming that they will rule upholding the hearing officer ruling with no modification. And because already NEC hearing officer has said that the candidate in Lofa County for UP will not be listed, the UP people will appeal to the Supreme Court. And then a citation, because this is an election matter, the Supreme Court will be required to prioritize it.
Okay.
And then maybe like 3 days, in 5 days' time, there will be a judgment. Then a citation will be sent to the NEC, because it will not be Unity Party and ALP versus Musa Billet and ANC first appellee versus NEC second appellee. So they will name them. And that shows that once you get to be named like that, you will not be able to function, do anything otherwise under the Supreme Court can act.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Talvina Cole. I am an activist, and you're watching Focus on Liberia.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Our topic today is land and land ownership in Liberia. That was our opening case about the NEC ruling. So let's get to our issue of land and land ownership. It's so much. A lot of questions are popping up in my head about this whole thing about land. But here's what I'm thinking about, and I want to go through all the things that are running through my head, and then you can frame it the way you want to proceed with it. First of all, I'm thinking, who has the legal authority to buy and hold the title of a land in Liberia? These and the creation of titleship to land ownership in Liberia. How that works? Are non-Liberian permitted to buy and hold title to a land in Liberia? What is the difference between the deed and the leasehold rights in Liberia? And then there are some legal words here, the difference between letters of administration and letters of testamentary. Who is an administrator and who is an executor of an estate? What are the types of deeds that fully establish land ownership in Liberia? What is the difference between interstate and testate estate? Interstate estate and testate estate, and whole lot of things. And who really owns the land? Let's even start from this point here. Who owns the land in Liberia? Is it government? Is it individual? Is it a family? Traditional? The elders? Who owns the land?
So prior to the July 11, 2018 Land Right Act of Liberia, very recent statute, all land in Liberia were owned by the government of Liberia. And so when you buy, let's say you bought 2 acres of land in Sando County, Greenville, you should be able to trace the ownership of your seller back to the Liberian government. That's the only way you can legally say that my deed is good and my land is, legitimate. But as of the July 11, 2018 Land Right Act, land ownership has been arranged into 4 categories. For now, that's what it is for now. 1, there is public land. 2, there is government land. 3, there is customary land. And 4, there exists private land. Now, these are very important. It's important because if you were to jump into go to the third, which is customary land, and then what is a public land, what is a government land, what is a customary land, what is a private land, how do they all come about? Liberia and many other African countries have issues with land and land ownership. Major issue. Before all of those of us who coming from the indigenous part of Liberia, our people in other counties, in the 15 counties, have sat on maybe 600,000 acres of land in Sano, in Grand Bassa, in Riverside, in Lofa, in Bapolu, in Mangibi, in Nima, all these places forever. They born their children there, they made their farms and whatnot. But the 1847 Constitution made the land ownership to be vested only in the Liberian government. But the July 11, 2018 Land Right Act has revised that to designating land designating land into four categories. A public land. Now, what is a public land? A public land is a piece of land that has no construction, buildings, and whatnot on it, but it's considered public because it is owned by the government of Liberia. So you will want to know what is the difference between government land and
Yeah,
public land. Got it listed.
exactly.
Public land would be like an open space. Let's say, take where we got a lot of land. Take Bapolu for example. That private people do not have deed to,
Okay, yeah.
and no private person claiming it. And customary people or community people are not claiming that piece of land, maybe 500 acres of land. And so that land is considered public because it gets to be vested, the ownership gets to be vested in the government of Liberia, but no building on it at all. There is no structure on it. Even though it's a land owned by the government because the customary people do not own it,
Right.
and the private holders of deeds do not own it. But it's an open piece of land that you can't just go there and start building unless the government sold it to you. But it had nothing on it at all. So that's public land. And then government land. Government land will be land where the government buys and a part of public land that the government takes and build houses, offices, and you name it on it. Agencies of government. So the land and where that property sit with the structure on it will be referred to as the government land. It is not owned by private ownership. It's not owned by private people. It's not owned by customary people. It may be part of the public land that the government chose to build, maybe BWI,
Right.
or the multilateral highs,
Or JFK.
JFK. But once you have building on it, it has now become government land. If it just left open with nothing there, it is considered a public land. And so, but both for staying in the process, the public land and government land are principally controlled and managed by the government of Liberia.
Okay.
Our people in the customary setting do not own it. People who are private owners of land, they do not own it. Then the next, and so if that is clear, then the next, and government has to show, in the case of public land and government land, government has to show pictorial and overt ownership. So government Liberia can say, we're going to go, we'll conduct survey there, or we're going to lay road between there to get to Bapolu.
Yeah.
So some sort of ownership, government got to show some sort of ownership for public land as well as the government land. Then customary land. As I was saying, prior to the act, all land that our people in the villages and in the 15 counties were sitting on forever. Their great-grandparents were there and they were born there. Their children were born there. Their great-grandchildren are also born there. Those lands, such pieces of land were not considered. You couldn't go in and buy it from the villagers. Let's say you went to Grand Cru, for example, and the indigenous people have been staying on 200 acres of land for a good period of time. They build their houses, but they don't have deed. So they can't sell it. In the past, they could not sell it. So the Land Right Act has given them the opportunity to legally and actually own it. So the community, the people in such area will be the community people. By oral testimony that these people been here more than 30, 40, 50, 70 years ago. In fact, these are the great-grandchildren now managing this property. And so the government, from the passage of this act, decided that as long as the people can testify that they knew that, say the Jar family being here for the past 50 years, 60 years, and
Right.
we have now is a great grandchildren of Mr. Jar. So then the government will go ahead, the Liberia land, Liberia Land Authority will issue deed to those customary people, and
Right.
they will not, and the land will become community land owned by everybody who occupy that place. So the community can decide to sell any part of it, but they will have the authority to be able to do so. And as the passage of this, as of the passage of this act, the government also within 2 years time help the uh, the um, the indigenous people to conduct what they call a confirmatory survey that will confirm that the Jar family own 150 acres of land in Grand Cru, for example.
Right.
So that survey, GPS survey, will confirm, and then they will have the meets and bounds, all the boundaries, and so the judge can now go ahead and sell if they wanted to sell. They
Right.
can build school, and you know it is important because what we're talking about, the land itself is foreign land where you have logs and whatnot. In the past, the indigenous people did not have any right to enjoy what log were cut from the forest. But I know you have to when you go to do law mining in those places, the community will have to be what they call, they have to agree, they have to be informed, and they have to be a party, and they have to reap benefit. So you cannot now go inside and mine the logs without treating with them. So all the government has started to do, Ellen government started this. Ellen government started it by
So Councillor Joel, because the word community now is kind of, we say community, but these are individuals. I come from a town,
uh-huh.
you know, but the community, when we say the community land, I mean this land is owned by individuals in the town,
Everybody.
right? Everybody,
Mhm.
right? But there are boundaries because my father's land or where his house is or was, the land around it, that's my father's land. So
Okay.
if you have to do a survey, the other neighbors have to come and say, "Oh no, your land stop this place." So when you say community and individual, I
Okay.
am
So
kind of
so
getting mixed
so
up.
so if your father did not have a deed
It didn't have.
and he stayed in that part of Sando County, maybe he had 50 acres of land that they were
Right.
making farm on, people are living around there. He actually is on a community land.
Okay.
So in order for the community to benefit, the Liberia Land Right Act is saying that all the families in that part of the place, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
whether the 50 acres of land your father was consistently making farm on or not. So when a survey is conducted, it will be conducted in favor of all the occupants of that 200 acres of land. And then what they would do for themselves is that when the survey is made, what they call a confirmatory survey to confirm that the people have been living there for all this long, then the community on its own consider and say, okay, we will now divide up Mr. Jah have 50 acres of land here. We allow him to have the 50 acres of land, but they will have to issue a deed
Right.
to your father in order for you guys to be able to claim the 50 acres of land as a community land. But it doesn't matter how old the people will be, how long they've been there, how much education they have. It group them into one lump, make them into one lump, considering that the community will benefit. So if people want to go mine diamond and gold there, the community will be involved. If they were building roads, logging company was building roads through the 500 acres of land, the
Right.
entire community will have to be impacted. The unfortunate thing is that the land you're referring to that your father had before the survey is not considered as a private land. He's part of a community. It could be considered, not even could be, it's considered under the act as a customary
Yeah.
land. And because everybody was have boundaries, not only your father, everybody who live in that place would say that my part of boundary here. When you
Yeah.
cross the creek, my part of land stop here. When you go and pass the coconut tree or the cotton tree, there, that's my land. But all of them do not own the land individually, do not own it in fee simple, meaning that they do not have private ownership. Only by a survey, the whole community can be able to benefit. If the community decide to give 50 acres of land to your father because you are occupying that place, the community will have to issue a deed. But before then, There has to be a survey, and all the people occupying that place, occupying the spot,
Right.
the 200 acres of land would then be issued a deed by the Liberian Land Authority to be a community land,
Thank
and the
you.
community can decide what they want to do with it.
Let's
So,
go to private land because
yeah, so this is customary land. So what it does is that it helps to empower the indigenous people to get some benefit from the land they've been staying on for that long without being able to claim ownership. So then private land. Private land is a land that defines the meets and bounds or the boundaries and the amount, the size is defined by a deed. So if Frederick Jr. got out of here and went to Unscrew, Grand Bassa County, and bought 100 acres of land from the people between Bukit Town and Unscrew, and this land was owned by the Williams family. So private land, the owners of private land are private people.
yeah.
They can sell it. They can sell as many as they wish to sell. They don't need to consult government. And anybody can go ahead and buy from them without having the whole community coming together to agree. It's only the people who the family member that controlling Williams estate or the 150 acres of land that is within the Bassa area there, owned privately. They have a deed onto it to describe that this 150 acres of land belong to Harrison Williams.
Okay.
And it is either obtained by buying it from a private person, or that the ownership of the land goes way back to the government of Liberia. So maybe the great grandfather of Harrison Williams was a member of the Frontier Force.
Yeah.
That he wanted to call AFL now. And so the government decided to give them the 150 acres of land because of his duty and his performance in the Frontier Force. So he acquired that, the great-grandfather acquired that land from a public land sale to him by the government of Liberia. And now it has become a private land because they own it and have a deed in their name.
Right. That's the difference. They have the deed.
Yeah, they have the deed in their hand. They can sell it. They can make farm on it. They can decide to get people off from there. They can decide that no road will pass through here unless there is the issue of eminent domain. The government of Liberia goes to court, and after a hearing to the market value of the land, decide to build road through the land. It becomes exclusive to them as private owner. But what is important is that the private owner of a land should have a way to trace his ownership of the land back to somewhere. If you've been in Liberia, I don't know if you frequent Liberia, there's a place from Rafi called the Boys Town. I don't know what you heard about that before.
Yeah,
it's a very, it has grown right now. It's a lot of people living there. It's both sides of the road. That land is about 25 acres of land. The whole of Boys Town there is about 25 acres of land. There's a lady in Minnesota said that her father and mother bought it for she and her sister in 1972. And they are no longer, the sister is dead, but only the lady alone remains. But she is old and she's in Minnesota. When I in Liberia, she went ahead and sent her husband, and he sued to remove all the people who occupy on both sides of that land, the 25 acres of land. Because mind you, she said the government of Liberia, her father was, I guess, in the army, and through a public land sale deed, meaning the government of Liberia sold to him the 25 acres of land. Yeah. And he in turn sold it to his daughters. One of them dead, one person is alive. So we are representing, our office in Liberia representing the people who already own the land. My cousin is there. So that's how I got involved. And I asked all the people, meaning that it's a private land, government has nothing to do with it. the private person can sell it because they have deed. They claim to have a deed since 1972. And the people who own the land include former Speaker Tyler, Jenekai Alex Tyler. And we representing the defendant, the people they sued to kick out of the place because my cousin there's a store, building material store that my cousin them leased it to an Indian man. And so they have, I think, 3 acres or 6 acres of land. 6 lots. And the store will be evicted if this lady is able to prove ownership of the land. And so I called a meeting of everybody there. I think about 96 people. The people who occupy both sides of the road. Yeah, a lot of people. So in Liberia, I went there and we had a meeting at my cousin's house. And all of them had a representative, and I told them to bring their deeds so we could see, and also bring the mother deeds, which is able to trace the land to the original buyer.
Right, and we'll discuss that mother deed because I keep hearing mother deed. We'll discuss it.
Yeah. So then they all brought me one piece of deed and whatnot. But when time came to what the property law calls chain of title, how you trace your deed to the person who had the land before that person deed to the government of Liberia from somewhere, they didn't have it. Including Speaker Tyler, he had 4.5 acres of land there that he built on. If you have been going to Liberia in the early government, that place when you pass there, the light would be flashing on the road. The guy had 2 huge generators there. There was swimming pool, 2 swimming pool in there. I think 4 swimming pool in there. There's a restaurant, there was a bar. And people used to go there to make themselves. And people who were leaving to come back to Liberia, they would stop there. Hotel was there. People would either sleep there, and wait for the plane. If your plane is 10 p.m., you can leave Monrovia and go there and stay down there around 6 p.m. Then you drive and go to Rafi. But he has a deed that says 4.5 acres of land, and that deed has nowhere to be traced. You can't say who owned the land before he bought it.
Yeah.
So there is an issue. I mentioned all of that to say that a private land is a land that is established by deed, but from private people. But you must, and it's important for people who live in the United States and in the Western world who have some money and want to go to Liberia and buy land. It's important that you talk to lawyers. We advise them to talk to our office if you know us, because you will go buy the land and the person will survey the land and they will issue a deed to you and for 4 acres of land, or let's say 1 acre, 2 acres, or 4 acres of land. And you will come back to America with your deed, and you start, maybe after 2-3 years, you start to build school, junior high school, or some people are building estate, starting to build estate there. And then 5 years down the road, somebody come and say, they land for me, you can't build it. And then the matter is about to go to court, and the lawyer call you for a conference and say, bring me your mother deed. You have your deed, right? Yes. Bring me the deed from which your deed came from.
And how do you get that?
So the person that's selling to you, that's why it's important to talk to a lawyer that's what people should pay attention to this, because you must find out, you who want to buy the land, you must find out what land is this? Is it a public land? Is it government land? Because we say 4 categories, right?
Yeah.
You should be able to ask yourself those questions. Is it a public land? Is it a government land? Is it a customary land? Is this a private land? And if it's a private land, are the owners still alive? If the owners are dead, is there a will? You see, I got will in the outline I sent to you. There's a will. And if there is no will, did the person die intestate? Or there is a letter of administration. I will discuss the letter of administration a little bit more. Because if you buy the land only to get the deed that it gave to you for the 4 acres of land that you so much see you love, Marshall, people going to Marshall and buying. There's another place called Wayne Town, Charlesville, somewhere around Charlesville. Very nice place. It empties into the river. Lot of Liberians from the United States, Europe, and other places going in that place and buying. But they bring it back with them one deed from the seller. So the reason why you need to establish the chain of ownership is that how did your seller own this land?
But so if you buy the land, you're supposed to get 2 deeds?
You're supposed to have 3 deeds.
3.
One is a deed, it's the money you pay. Let's say you pay for 2 acres of land in Charlesville,
Right.
in town. The seller will issue a deed in the name of Daniel's jar.
Right.
Now, the seller must give you a copy of his deed.
Yeah.
A deed from which, and you must be able to read a deed to know that he's selling you 2 acres. Does he have more than 2 acres? Because if you don't read a deed, you don't know whether he had more than 2 acres, even don't have 2 acres. He may have only 2 lots. And he's surveying, you know what they do? They pull out the cornerstone of people in the area. Neighbor cornerstone, they pull it out.
my owner land is still fighting about the cornerstone.
You know what I did? When I was in Liberia, I bought 6 lots somewhere around Midtown. They call it Ambush Court from Ralphie. It's about 10-minute drive to Ralphie. Very nice place. But I got all the deeds I'm talking about. But I built a cornerstone big like the light pole.
Yeah.
I built 8 cornerstones. And I put all the official, I removed the stake they had to call the peg, the one that they have as a direct, identification or the description of the property. I put those big posts in there, and I built an L shape. I built 3 courses of black on the ground, 3 courses of black ups that connected to the pole in all of the corners. So you have to break all the poles down in order to be able to sell my land. But because the guy who's selling to you, you need to he should not even only issue you a deed. Because he may be selling you something that he doesn't have.
So when you go back to the court or wherever this deed is coming from, did they not verify or it's not their business?
It's a ceremony. When you go to probate your deed, it's a pure ceremony. The court does not question whether there's a mother deed or there's no mother deed.
Oh, man.
So you take your 2 acres of land that you bought in Magibie County, that you and your wife interested in building, estate houses. When you retire, you can go stay in one of them. The rest of it, you'll be making money from it. That guy who's selling you the 2 acres of land doesn't own it, because where is his deed? It is a deed from which he must extract your 2 acres.
Right.
Does a deed say that he has 8 acres of land? He must have enough to sell. Right. And if a deed says he has 8 acres of land and he's selling you 2, then you must also ask another question. His deed, where can we trace it? Who gave him this property?
So when you buy the land, you should have your own deed. That is, I bought this land, Dennis Jack, got my 2 acres. And then the guy who is selling it to me, maybe he has 50 acres. I should have a copy of his deed too.
Yeah, and you should be able to read his deed.
Read it. And that actually he has 50. And it's within this boundary.
Yeah, in fact, that's why a lawyer will call it Mother 1 deed, meaning that the person who's selling to you has a deed that says he has 8 acres. And he sold to you 2 acres of land. So you can trace your deed back to his deed. So it's part of the 8 acres that he's selling you to.
Right.
But you should also want to find out, where can you trace his deed? 8 acres that he says he has. Who sold it to him? How did he get it?
Because you should have that too. The same way
you should have that. You should have that. But because they are crooks, they will not end, because they know that you are not a lawyer.
Right.
And because they know that you don't know to ask this question I'm raising.
Right.
They will give you that 1 deed. You happily put it in your hand. Maybe you go to Kakata and probate it. The probate court will not ask you any question. You probate it. It will have the date that is probated. You put it back in your bed. You pack your suitcase. You come back to America.
Because they know you get 2 weeks. So they...
But the thing about it is that you must be able to principally have 3 deeds. One One is your real deed for the 2 acres of land you bought.
Right.
The other is a photocopy of your seller's deed.
D.
And you must be able to read the deed, because if you look down in the deed, have many things that were very boring. If you're not a lawyer, it's very boring. They got this one, north this, south this, east this. Forget about that. Go all the way down for all the other nonsense that you see on the deed. You will see at the end of the sentence, it will say 4 acres of land and no more. It's written in both figure and word. So you see that, then you say, okay, my deed is 4. And mind you, here's the other thing. The people who sell the deed to you, they can also crook you and say they sold to you 4 acres of land, but they sold to you 2.
Yeah.
Because the deed you have reads 2 acres of land, it doesn't say 4. So you are not able to read the deed, and then you're into trouble because they can crook you on that. And then you also don't have a copy of his deed from which the 2 acres he sold to you. The originality of that deed come from his deed. You should have a copy. Then where his the person who sold him the 8 acres of land, their deed, you need to have a copy, because you should have all of those, all 3 of them.
Here's a question. Stephen Slash said, why the surveyor can check that too at the lands and mines ministry if the deed is a real one? What is the role of the surveyor?
Let me tell you about it. The surveyors are the people who can survey the land more than 4 or 5 times.
There's one surveyor, when you survey, you don't have money to pay. You say, okay, give me land.
Yeah.
Surveyor, now they're selling land.
Yeah, but beside that, they will go and connect with the people who sold it to you. And they will, my land, I have land near the Baptist Seminary. I had 3.5 acres of land there. When I left, this very surveyor who surveyed the land, because I represented some Bassa people in that place, and they paid me 8 acres of land. Before I left, they paid me 3.5 acres. The very surveyor that surveyed the land went and removed all the cornerstone that had FABJ on it, and then resurveyed and sold it to some people. And then when I call him, because I had his phone number, I call him and say, oh, I'm not the one that put in the time, I'm going to go survey the place. But you surveyed the land that you yourself surveyed for me about 5 years ago. So how can you go resurvey that particular land? But it's important, because ordinarily, even if you don't want to pay a lawyer, it's good to know that you will get a deed from your seller. That's your original deed.
Yeah.
But it's also good to ask your seller, I want copy. In fact, before you buy it, tell your seller, say, bring me a copy of your mother deed, bring me a copy of your deed, and bring me a copy of your mother deed. Because even if you don't know to read a deed, you can have one lawyer to look at it for maybe like 100 or 150. Or if you do legal consultation, they will tell you to pay $300. But they will read the deed and say to you, look, this man doesn't have enough land, so he cannot sell it to you. But if you just bought it, you're back in the United States, and then you have a deed that you can't trace to nowhere, because the person that sold it to you. Let me tell you a practical case. The 4.5 acres of land that Ellis Tyler has, the deed he has in here, 4.5 acres, the seller deed that he gave to him. But the deed he brought to me to review as his mother deed, 1 acre. So how you can have 4.5 acres when your mother deed is 1 acre? And it happened to many Liberians in the United States, yes.
Wow.
So it's important. I would say, find our office, find other lawyer that you know. Ask the practical question. You're selling land to me around what you call it, Wayne Town, almost near the what you call Charlesville area. They're very nice places. Yes. Okay, go bring me your deed. Don't pay any money. Bring me your deed, the seller's deed, the deed that he has or she has. And then bring the mother deed for a seller deed. Because when they bring those to you, you are able to review and say, okay, this man actually had 20 acres of land. He's selling me only 4. And I found out that his mother deed is a public land sale deed, because the government of Liberia sold the land to his grandfather, 100 years ago for 18 cents. So you see, you have a way to trace it. Your deed, your seller's deed, your seller's mother deed. But the 2 deeds he will give to you will be all photocopied. I tell people, don't buy the land until you ask for your seller's deed. Don't buy the land until you ask for a seller's mother deed. And don't pay any money to surveyor unless you yourself can read the deed and determine that the deed that your seller has is more than what he wishes to sell to you. Because when they sell the land to you and take your money, they don't have money to pay back. And if you there's a place in Liberia called Doison.
Yeah.
There are small bastard people living in that place. Those people, they will sell to you over and over and over and over. When you go to Doison to go find those people, there's a river between the town and there's a river between the town and Doison. They all cross the river and move the kingdom from your side. And you will never see them. Because when they cross the, everybody will leave the town. Everybody will leave the town. This is not a joke. Everybody will leave the town, even down to the women. They all will cross the go on that side. They stay behind the river for all day until in the night. Then they come to town to sleep. Soon the morning, everybody go across the river. And if you manage to catch them, they don't have money to pay you. So what will you do? You have spent almost what? 8,000-9,000 to buy land. One of our friends who you know, he part of the ULAA, one of the eminent people, he bought land around the Saint Doison area recently. He and his wife, I think they bought two lots or 2 acres of land there. And they're having the same problem. There are 2 buyers. So it's important, even if you don't need to be a lawyer, you don't want to consult a lawyer, just first be able to ask the person who wants to sell the land to me, how many acres on his deed. Then the other thing to be concerned with, and does he have a mother deed? The other thing to be concerned with is that deeds, what are the types? So there is something called the administrator deed.
Okay.
ADMINISTRAT, or administrator deed. That is somebody who owns a piece of property. That person died and left no will. What he left is considered as an intestate estate, meaning an estate that the owner died without writing a will before his death or before
Okay.
death.
Let go back.
Yeah.
So we have the type of deed. The first one here that you talk about is the administrator deed. And that means the person who had this land died without a will.
Yes.
And so the way we know that this land is for that person, how do we know that?
So let's say the Chief Barbley, Barly, that is a true name. They own almost around the baptism that people are represented. They will have a public, I understand, Chief Barbley was involved with allowing the settlers, when they wanted to buy land, he was one of those chief bastard chiefs that were negotiating for them. So they in turn gave him 1,600 acres of land within the baptism area around that. So, but Chief Barbley died a long time ago. People say he died in 1932, 1942, something like that. But his great-grandchildren are alive around the baptism area. There's a place called Mengba Town around there. They are alive. So when Chief Barbley died, the relatives of Chief Barbley are not allowed by themselves to take over his 1,600 acres of land and sell it any way they wish to sell it. You have to go to the probate court and announce and file a petition to the probate judge and say that Chief Barbley died so time and left 100 great-grandchildren, 100 grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And 2 or 3 or 5 of them will be designated to be the administrators. Administrators are designated by the probate court to take care of and manage the dead person's property that died without leaving a will.
Okay.
So they are empowered.
But that property has been established. There's a deed.
So there's a deed for in the name of Chief Barbley.
Okay.
But the great grandchildren, 100 of them, are wanting to control the property of the late Chief Bable.
Right.
In order to do so, they must file a petition before the probate court, indicating in the petition that Chief Bable died and left no will, but he left 1,600 acres of land, and that the grandchildren and great-grandchildren want to take care of the property. And so they are naming 5 of the 100. Most of the time can be the family heads.
Yeah.
They're naming them to be the administrator. The
Yeah.
probate court will go through and then grant them something called letters of administration.
Okay.
It's an authority for the great-grandchildren to manage the property left by the great-grandfather.
Yeah, I hope they don't get in the canoe too and cross the river.
But let me tell you, they will do. They will. They will. Let me tell you what they do. A letter of administration has a limitation of life. It is good for 1 year.
Okay.
It cannot go beyond one year. So if you're buying property from an estate that is intestate estate, meaning the person died and did not leave a will, the administrators must have 3 documents in their hand to give them authority to sell. 1, a letter of administration issued by the probate court. It can be probate court in Sano County. It can be probate court in Maryland. But there's a probate court in each of the counties. Or the circuit court that can work as a probate court. So they must have letter of administration. Then you got to look at a letter of administration to know when was it issued, because the letter of administration is as good for only 1 year.
Okay.
And then they must have something called a decree of sale, which is the order of the court the court gave the administrator power to sell some of the property. So there's a letter of administration, there is a decree of sale, and then there's something called the administrator oath. They swear and say they will take care of the property for the best and the good of the family. So you must also look at the oath to see when it was issued. Because if it's more than 1 year, then the oath is no good. If the letter of administration was issued more than 1 year, then the letter of administration is no good. Because why am I saying this? Because the administrator can issue you an administrator deed. The deed you have when you buy property from people who are administrator of an intestate estate.
Right.
The deed they issue to you is an administrator deed. But if their letter of administration expires, I'll tell you one very particular thing. President Weah and his chief of staff, they went to one bastard town on the Rafi Highway. And President Weah bought 90 acres of land in the bastard town. Mr. McGee bought, I think, 50 acres, 25 acres of land. The administrators that issued that signed, gave them the deed, the letter of administration expired 10 years ago. One of the way I got to know, one of them contacted me and wanted me to be lawyer for the estate, and they wanted to fight back. And I told them, "We know you cannot fight back that we are get out of the presidency because they will kill all of you." So they bought this land. The administrator oath expired 10 years ago also. The letter of administration expired 10 years ago. The decree of sale, which is the order to sell, expired 10 years ago. So they technically and legally, they cannot pass anything from the estate to anybody because they themselves have no authority from the probate court to be able to sell it. So let's say the 50 acres of land or the 25 acres of land that McGee bought, the 90 acres that Mr. Weah bought, and they took the document to the probate court. And a ceremony, take the document to the probate court in Kakata. It's prepared, and Mr. Weah takes it and put it in his archive. McGee put it in his archive. Mr. Weah is no longer president, or Mr. Weah is dead. After he no longer become president, he old enough now, he died natural death. They see what McGee. His children now decide, and they build them. The children now decide to claim the property. The children of that village, whose father sold the land, we have legal standing to sue because they say, well, our father sold the land to you, he had no authority to sell it. So you see the problem that it creates. you must make sure that there is a letter of administration that is active, meaning it's in the 1 year period or it's extended. So it can expire. When it expires, you can apply to extend it. If you don't see those, any administrator that's selling to you may have no authority to sell. The letter of administration must be current. His administrator must be current. His decree of sale, which is the power authorized by the probate court to sell the land and take care of the estate, must also be current. In the absence of that, he cannot sell what he doesn't have. And so it becomes a problem. So land issue is one of the major deeds, one of the deeds that people can get, in problem with. And so you may have an administrator deed, you do everything, you can get a mother deed, you can get, the mother's deed, you can get 3 deeds in your hand, your own deed, your seller, the administrator deed in your hand, and the deed of Omen Bable in your hand. But the administrator letter of administration expired a long time ago, 10 years ago. The oath they took that they protect the estate expired 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The what you call it, decree of sale, the order that I could give to them to sell and take care of the property expired 10 years ago. So they cannot sell. They have to go back to the probate court and ask for a new order to continue to administer the estate, because the intestate estate law provides that at the end of 1 year or before the end of 1 year, 6 months after they are issued a letter of administration, they must go ahead and take an inventory of all of what this intestator, the person who died did not leave a will, of all of what he left, and report to the court. And the court must close the estate within a year from the time the letter of administration was issued. So if the court does not close the estate within a year and the administrator still administering the estate, then there must be an extension of all the documents I just named. So again, you need a lawyer to be able to look at those things, because all of what I'm saying might be too technical for our sisters and brothers who maybe have worked here, work that made some good money, carry $25,000 and bought land that they want to help help themselves build, houses and things on, and they are building. But what if tomorrow, 5 years down the road, you are challenged? What is it you have? Are you a private landowner?
Right. So in the case, and let's use the President Weah case for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they bought the land at a time that all those things expire. Can they now go, since they have can they now go and update so that it appears that when they bought the land, the administrator deed was valid?
Well, yes and no. No, because before they sold it, the administrator should have petitioned the 13th Judicial Circuit Court, the court in Kakata, to extend their power to sell. But now the place we had that the people sold to, so many people.
Yeah.
One of the administrators is my friend. He came to me from the representative. A young guy, I think he's about 34, 35. He wanted the administrator at the university as a senior student. But he came to me to complain that the other people were selling, and he was not getting some of the money. So he wanted to begin to sell his own to get his own money. And then he explained the whole situation to me. So I said, and he was particularly interested in selling the land that we had then bought. So I said, you can't do it. Don't even try that. You'll run into political problems. They will go kill you. So leave it alone. But then he also said that the people that sold, all of the documents expired. And he brought me copies to show that they expired. And what could they do? I said, you just leave it alone. That Mr. Weah is no longer in power. You can go after the land. Maybe he'll be dead and your children will go after it. But for now, you can't find it. But all of these things are important, because this is how private land ownership can either come from an administrator deed, or it can come from what they call an executor deed. So who is an executor?
Yeah, before we get to the executor, because I don't want us to compare too many things that there's a question from Ahmed K. Salif. You say, how does all this interplay with the land reform efforts, that is the Land Commission, etc., started under President Salif? I know we started with that Land Rights Act.
Yeah.
So Mr. Salif, when you say how all this interplay, be more specific, but if you understand that, or Councillor, go ahead.
I guess what he's saying is that with the Land Right Act, I thought everything should be in order and everything should be fine. I think that's what he implying.
Okay.
But what the Land Right Act did was to basically set the category of properties in Liberia, land in Liberia. So there's a public land, there's a government land, there's a customary land, and there is a private land. But in most cases, the problem coming from the private sellers. A lot of the problems coming from the private seller because the customary people have forests, where logging company go and they are looking for way to get some money when logs are cut from there. So they don't really go about and sell very frequently like the way the private sellers can sell. Particularly the administrators. And the Land Right Act does not give the administrator the right to continue to hold the letter of administration 10 years or longer than that without an extension. And if you don't know and you bought the land, and when you buy a land that the administrator sold to you, he must issue you a copy of his letter of administration. He must give you a copy of his oath as administrator. He must give you a copy of his the decree of sale, the authority that probate court gave to him. You add all of that to his, the deed he issue you from whence you can trace your deed to his deed and on to the mother deed, and then all of that will add onto it. But if you don't know all of that, the administrator will say to you and go and sell the very land. In fact, when it becomes an issue, the administrator go to court and testify and say that my letter of administration expired when the people bought the land from me. And I told them.
So now, if you come to a person, the administrative deed is different from the, I want to call it the regular deed.
So there is a deed called a warranted deed.
Okay.
It's another is different from administrative deed in that I bought my land, the 6 lots around the Rafi Highway, from the administrator, I think 4 administrators of the Chikwe estate.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all of the things I just named to you. And then I came and said, Dennis, I got land around the Rafi Highway. I got 6 lots there. I will sell you 2.
Yeah.
So the deed I issued to you is a warranted deed because I warrant that my deed is good as the amount that I'm going to sell to you. So it's from one private person to another private person, but it's from it's not from an estate. It's from an individual who owns a piece of property, and he warrants that he can sell part of that property.
So most of the land we buy there on that Robertsfield Highway are from individual private people. So the deed we getting, is that a warranted deed?
I don't know what he is saying. Private people. I know most of the people around Rafi are Bassa people. People are Bassa people.
And you are Bassa man.
I'm from Grand Bassa myself. they are grandchildren and great grandchildren of somebody who owned the land before.
Okay.
And maybe it's their grandfather, Chief. There's in the Wentan area they call, I think, Chief Jackson something. I don't remember the deed. I don't remember the name on it, but the original owner before the people started to sell it, he's an old man who I think died more than 100 years or 150 years ago. So
most of those deeds will be administrative deed.
Yeah, most of the deeds supposed to be administrative deed, but here's the problem.
Okay.
The administrator can decide to be so powerful that they can begin to sell the land and just cater to themselves and not to the people who actually should benefit from the land.
Yeah.
So brothers and sisters can get together and lead the administrator out. They go to Kakata and get a letter of administration. They don't mention that there exists a letter of administration already.
It means these things are not digitized.
No. And nobody follow it to say that, Joel bought land in 2020 and he's selling now the same land, part of the land to Janet Jar. You just carry your deed. Yes, you carry the deed, you pay $150. They get a clear $50. He enter in the record, meaning that your deed was submitted for probate on so date. You take the deed to the judge read the meaning and sign. her name. We take it what to the archive. The guy responsible for archive. They put the page number. They put the volume number on it. The stem. That's it.
So they don't really check to see whether another record there that can establish it.
No, they don't.
Here's the question from Jackie's side. Does the law allow for punishment? Like those guys who can go across the river. Does the law allow punishment for those who knowingly sell land more than once? Is that law enforced? Do you think Liberia should have leasehold instead of freehold? And I don't know what leasehold and freehold is, but you and Jackie will talk that one.
There is a criminal law that provides that they can be arrested and charged with a crime when they sell more than one time. But the real problem is that most of the people who got money to buy land around the Rafi way are people from here.
Yeah.
Very few Liberians over there buying land there, unless they got money. But most of the people who have worked hard here for their money and took $10,000 or $12,000 to Liberia will go ahead and buy the land. But because in most cases, most of them, I bet you, will have only one deed in their hand.
Yeah. I got one deed. I'm an example.
So the deed they have is only the deed they give to them for the land, the amount of land that they say they sold to you. But where is the person who that sold it to you? Where is the deed?
Right. And the deed say I got it after 5 years.
But there's another problem. Even if all the things we're talking about is in order, you got your mother deed. I mean, you got your own deed. You got the person that sold it to you, his deed, and then you got the deed of the person who owned the land before. You got a copy of the letter of administration. You got a copy of the what they call the administrator oath, and you got a decree of say all of those things in order. You get all of them. Most people who leaving from here after they get their deed, they don't probate their deed. They come to the United States with their deed. Take the original copy, put it in their bag. They come here and keep it, or until they have sufficient money to begin to build. Guess what happened? When you buy the property and the deed is issued to you, from the date of the deed, you must go to from the date the deed was turned over to you, the seller signed it and turned it over to you. You must go to the probate court within, let's say it's Mangibi, you must go to Kakata and probate your deed within a period of 4 months, not 1 year, not 5 years, not 10 years. Why? Because somebody can go and the people who send the land to you, they know practically the law. Because you didn't talk about probating your deed, you talk about coming back to America with your deed. You came back to America with your deed. The very people go sell the land to somebody else. And then when you go back and say, oh, you sold the land to me a long time ago, say, well, we sold it to you, but you did not probate the deed. Meaning that you are vulnerable because as long as the deed is not probated and registered, the deed is considered a voidable deed, a deed that can be challenged and you fall.
But the money is not void.
No, your money gone. You go look for them across the river. You know, the other thing they did which was interesting, and they are all people around them. My client, I had a client that bought almost 30 acres of land for one of them. They ran them one time there. So we wrote them and we continued to go after them. I told people, I said, okay, let's go Saturday to go see the people because maybe they will be in the town. Before we could get in the town, we met two boys that told us, say, are you a member of the Poro Society? So I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, they're having Poro, this town, in the town, they're having Poro Society going on now. Only member can go in the town or else the devil will kill you in the bush and eat you. So I said, oh, what do you mean by that? He said, oh, but if you're not a member, and then he showed me the young touch, the tie across the road like this, which is an indication that beyond that, you are entering into a porous society.
You can get that.
Yeah. No, you can get that. When you get there, they'll catch you. Because you are a non-member. But fortunately, I'm a member, so I told my clients, okay, y'all park the car on the road. I would drive and go in there and meet the people. When we got there, they had 3 devils. I think there were 4. They had 4 devils as I danced. The first one ran straight to me, straight. And then the guy who was behind him came and shook my hand, and he expected me to answer him the sign that the Porous Society people can throw, and then I answered him. So they were certified that I was a member of the Porous Society, therefore I could go in the town. Or else you'll be conscripted. So that's another way they will fool the people to not go behind them. They can put the devil outside. The devil not far away.
The same devil that was in Bapulu with the ballot papers.
Oh yeah, the devil got all the clothes inside the house, inside the place. The devil.
No,
Before
and
10 minutes,
there was
the devil is outside.
part two to Jackie's question. And if you are watching and want to join the conversation, the number is on the screen: 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Jackie also said, "Do you think Liberia should have a leasehold instead of a freehold?" I don't know what that is.
There's a difference between leasehold and freehold. I think what she's talking about freehold is ownership in fee simple. What does that mean? When you have a land and you have a deed and all the things that are named are in order, you probated your deed on time, you got a copy of the letter of administration, you got a copy of the administrator oath, you got a copy of the decree of sale, or if it's from a private person, you got a copy of his deed. Then you got a copy of his deed, the mother of his deed. You got all of that. Then you should be fine. You'll be considered as a freeholder, or you'll be considered as you have title in free simple, meaning that you have an absolute title as against the whole world. That's that freehold or leasehold. No, not leasehold, freehold. Or in Liberia, we call it fee simple. It's a law that says that your deed is that you have the property nobody else owns except you. Then leasehold is that you, and I will need to talk about it, is that you as Liberians living in the United States that have naturalized as U.S. citizens, you don't have the right to own land in Liberia. Does that surprise many people?
No.
You cannot buy land in your name if you are a U.S. citizen in Liberia and consider the land to be owned. So the best way to get around that, some people have been buying the land in their family people's name and putting the family person's name on it who is a Liberian. Or else, my office in Liberia is 6 rooms. I am leasing it. I leased it for 5 years. The first 5 years we're in now, we enter another 5 years. So I'm a leaseholder on the 6-room office space. But you as a Liberian do not want to be a leaseholder because unless it's a building that you want to do business and you lease the building because you're not the owner.
Yeah.
But if you want to buy land, you cannot be a leaseholder. Only Lebanese people forget about Lebanese people. Liberians that being here are naturalized U.S. citizens do not have the right to own land in their name, so they can lease it and build whatever thing they wish to build on it.
And that's a whole new thing that will come to, but there are more questions here. So we don't want to even go into any new idea now until we answer all the questions. This one is from Anthony Sia. This guy knows politics a lot, but when it comes to the land issue, he wants to know if an administrator saw a piece of land on expired documentation, like we talk about the administrative deed, would that mean the land was sold or purchased illegally? Of course, right?
It was purchased. It was purchased illegally because the seller did not have the authority from the probate court to sell it. Even though he had letter of administration in his hand, he had the decree of sale, he had the administrator all everything, but they all expired.
Yeah.
So mind you, we're talking about an intestate estate. We're talking about an estate where the person died and did not leave a will. So the overall administration of the dead person property is the probate court. That's why the seller must have a current letter of administration in hand. You got to see when the letter of administration was entered, was issued. You got to see when the decree of sale was issued. Other than that, what you buy doesn't exist because the person who passing title to you, who signing that deed as administrator, doesn't have the authority to sign it because the authority expired a long time ago.
And who can sue that person? You buying the land or?
Yeah, you can sue them, but again, as I said to you, most of the people that are selling the land are people who cannot pay you back. You go after them to go across the river, you don't see they go across the river.
Maybe there's a need for government to put bridge on this river.
or they put the devil outside. So when you can't go in the town, you can't talk to anybody. They don't want to go across the river. They put the devil outside. And then you can't go there. There's nothing you can do about it because they don't have money to pay you back.
Lawrence Policy, I'm from Grand Bassa, also in number 2 district. I think that's the Jacobtown area. During the war, I passed that place, and when we got there, we were family member of 7. So there was the 2 ladies. We got to their house, and they were already facing their dinner, their dumbbell. And out of their dumbbell that they were facing for 2 of them to eat, they gave us a portion, and 8 of us couldn't finish it.
Or maybe it was a big dumbbell.
Yeah, that was a big one, and this was number 2.
Because that's the traditional food right there.
So I remember it very well, and
but I'm from number 1. I'm not from 2. I'm from 1.
Okay, and I still, every time I think about them, God bless their heart, as it's because of them that I'm alive today, because who have died that night. But the race was because the dumbbell was too much, and we're so hungry after walking for days, we would have also died from being overfed.
Oh yeah, they don't cook dumbbell for for the small thing. No, you see the town chief dumbbell, when you see the pen that is in, he watches his hand and he will eat all of that. I don't think that he will not eat it. No, it will not be left, or he will eat that because the dumbbell don't sleep. It has to be eating.
You got to be.
You either dump it or you can do something else. What is his question? He said what? He said we.
He said number 2 they have serious problem. And I don't want, because you mentioned the Bassa people too much tonight. Now I don't want you to think this land issue with the Bassa people alone.
No. There are other sellers.
Yeah,
but to be very frank, originally the people that own a lot of land in Bassa, in Liberia, are Bassa people.
Yeah.
Unless maybe you went to Nima and the Mana and Gio area, or you went to Lofa County. But if you play around Monrovia area, Ralphie area, on school area, compound number 1, number 2, those places that Bassa people, when you cross river says and you go into Sando, then you can start talking about the crew, people and other things like that. But traditionally, people that own land are Bassa people.
Jackie said there should be a term limit to develop the land. If a land is not developed, it should revert to the government. Many people abroad and in Liberia have large swaths of undeveloped land. But the land is most of the land now is not, and I'm trying to say something here about this question. Most of the land is from private people. So if you don't develop it, it goes back to the private person or it goes back to the government. So
that's where what Jackie talking about makes sense, but there is a law on what they call abandonment. So if you own 4 acres of land or 10 acres of land, and in the period of 10 years you don't do anything about it, it can become a land that is considered abandoned. In most cases, it will go to the government of Liberia. The case in Boys Town now, the woman who claiming that she bought the land in 1972, I noticed from 1980 to 2021 in Liberia, they have done nothing on the land there. People built all type of houses on the place. So what we're doing, even though my people don't have D, as I said to you, they can't trace the D, but we're following the principle of abandonment and adverse possession. So if I go on your land and stay there and you for 10 years you did nothing there, build houses that you can't claim it because you did not develop it, because you need to claim it. Within that 10-year period you need to pay taxes and all. Most of the people don't pay taxes; they just take their land D and come back to America and sit down. So you abandon the land, you can go to the government.
Ahmed K. Salim said, what if a piece of land was willed or bequeathed to a non-family member? Under the Land Right Act or previous land tenure regime, how does such a beneficiary have their willed property legally transferred to them?
So that good question he's asking. When someone dies and left a will, you can will anything to your dog. You can even will all your land to your dog. A will is the intent of the person who is still alive. He decides or she decides to give her property out to anybody, or some of her property to anybody that he or she wishes. And so the will would be, when the person dies, the will will be taken to the probate court 30 days after the death. And it will go through a process they call the proving of the validity of the will, meaning that the person who died actually wrote that will. I got a case where the first Bassa man who, I like the Bassa people, the first Bassa man who was the Minister of Education in, I think, Toba or Tottenham government, G. Farmer Sherman. You ever heard that name before? G. Farmer Sherman.
No.
G. Farmer Sherman was the first native Bassa man who was Minister of Education, I think in Toba government or in Tottenham government, one of the two. But the parents have died. The mother dead. The father, Mr. Flammer, also dead. And two of the children are smarter than the other children. They went, and the father left a will. The father and mom left a will. They had two different estates. They might have a lot of property around the FE, going from FE, going to what they call the fish market, Oro. They got a lot of property there belonging to them. The two smarter children in the family decided to hide the will that the mom and dad wrote, separate wills that the mom and dad left, and they wrote a will and signed the father name and signed the mother name to will the property to only or two of them. So there was a contest. So when you talk about will, it means the person that have property can actually give it to anybody that, will it out to anybody.
Right.
And when the letter of when the will is submitted to the probate court, is proven to be valid, the signature correct, the amount of property in there, that's what the person had. The will actually divides up the property. So the probate court will issue something called letter of the executor letter. Letters, the authority the probate court issue to the person who is named in the will to take care of the property. That person is called the executor, or if it's a woman, it's the executress. That person will issue what they call an executor deed to those who are named in the will. So they get the deed. They will get deed, but they will not get an administrator deed. They will not get a what you call it, warranty deed. They will get an executor deed. So yes, they will get the property, but they will get a deed. And
talking about, you say you can even will the land to a dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a case here where a woman had a cat, and when the woman died, she will a land and huge sum of money to the cat, and say any church that will bury the cat will take this $200,000. So they went to this church, the Baptist church, and said, as the pastor said, "Oh, we want a church to bury the cat." The pastor got so angry. He said, he quoted the Bible and everything. He said, "We don't bury cat here. To bury human being, cat doesn't have a soul." So the man was going. I said, "Oh, okay." But the woman who died had a will for the cat of so much land. But he said, any church who buried the cat will have 200,000. The pastor said, "But why you didn't tell me the cat was a Baptist cat?"
was a Baptist cat.
If you have told me, then they think. But should there be a limit? Well, is there any limit to the land or the amount of land a person can own in Liberia? 100,000 acres, 200,000 acres. I know they broke that record already.
Most of the land that is that large, we mostly will come from a community of customary land ownership. Because an individual may maybe have 25 acres of land. They may not have 200 acres. They may have inherited the land from their great-grandparents, and the parent might have died and left no will, and they might have been the administrator, and they've gone to court after 6 months and took inventory of all the property that was left. and the court took the inventory and closed the estate, and maybe the administrator was the only child that is alive,
Okay.
and so the property will go to when the estate is closed, there is no more administrator. That's why estate must close in 1 year time, and then the property or the 200 acres of land go to that person. But under normal condition, individual would not have that.
And you were talking about George Flammer Sherman. Jackie said yes, he was the one married to Mary Anthony Brown Sherman, who was LU president. So
yeah.
So,
But he had another woman from, even though he was married to Mary Anthony Brown Sherman, but he had another wife, Jackie Sherman, something like that.
I know we addressed this question from the beginning, but I see two questions here on that about the customary land, traditional land. So, Yanle Ramberly, what happened to traditional or customary land, and hold that? Another one from James Wright say, land like tribal reserve, how is such land treated under the Land Rights Act? Who has the right to sell such land? So tribal reserve, I don't know if that would be part of the customary
It's the same customary land. Yeah. So all of the people who, again, as I said, all the people who resided on that land, who in the community, in there, they've been staying there forever. Their children, great-grandchildren stay there. Under the Land Right Act, the property is considered a customary property, stroke community property. Everyone born in that place or live in that place are owners of the property. The community has to agree to sell it. Most of the time, the community can, which is a good thing, the community can nominate, leaders in the community to be able to treat with how the land, is how each person get it. They want to give out to families, how family heads will get the land. But in most cases, the people they designate to be the leaders are the people who can clandestinely sell the land without they benefiting.
Let's end with this question, because I see a couple of questions coming about land ownership, right? Who has the legal authority to buy and hold it or to own land in Liberia? And hold that, because there are questions here. Evan Morris says, does Councillor Joel believe that Lebanese should own land or non-Liberians? Then Sam J. Sanduro say, with the dual citizen law being passed, I don't know if that's passed already, does that give dual citizens the right to own a land? So all the other questions around land ownership, that's why I say, who should own land in Liberia, or who has the right, the legal?
So the Land Right Act, Article 8 talks about eligibility. Only Liberian citizen, as of now, has the right to own land. Either he buys it from an administrator, he buys it from a private owner, he buys it as a public land sale, government auction piece of public property. He or she buys it. But until the law on citizenship dual citizenship is passed, it was passed by the House. It's still in the Senate. Until it's passed into law, Liberians who have bought property in Liberia and have built homes and maintaining deeds to them and all of that, I hope they got all the correct deeds. They will be running into trouble of buying property that they cannot own, because they do not own because they are not Liberian citizens.
And I hope there's a gentleman who has been pushing the dual citizenship act, and anyway, I will leave that different, because it's like so. Let me leave that one. This one is, hello gentlemen, please help me with this issue. A man told me that his grandfather established a town somewhere in Liberia that is now inhabited by all groups of Liberia. Can he or anyone from his family make a deed or some other legal papers to become the administrator? I don't know which one should happen first. If you have no paper at all, so if people can prove that yes, this was your grandfather's village, now people living there, the place open now. Like, let's take the Boys Town for example. or anywhere there, now it was for my grandfather. Now everybody's living there. So the question now is, can anyone from the family make a deed or some other legal document to claim that?
So no, your family people cannot make a deed because it will be considered as a customary land, which is a community land. Everyone who live in there, if by word of mouth people can give testimony that they've been living there more than 5, 6, 7, 10 years or so, or even longer than that, the whole property will be considered under the customary law category, and it would be if the government will give them deed, but will benefit the entire community. So the community will have to designate leaders and decide how they will sell it, but the Jar family can sell by themselves.
Senator is asking, can dual citizen own a land? We don't have dual citizen in Liberia yet, but let me let the councillor answer that.
No, well, until we can have Liberians who, and it's a serious matter. We can have Liberians who maybe 500,000 of them are here, and are citizens of Europe and the United States, most of them in the United States. Until the dual citizen law is passed, all property you buy in Liberia, you don't own it.
Yeah.
You can buy property as an alien. And somebody asked whether I support Lebanese people being owners of land. I don't support that.
Is it just Lebanese or any foreigner who's not naturalized? I don't know why.
The unless it's clearly defined as to how the land issue would be, carried out, you got Lebanese people or other people that got a lot of money.
Yeah.
They can go and buy the whole village, and you can't even get the traditional property there any longer. So there needs to be a mechanism.
Exactly. So you can put a limit, right? You can say,
you
this is what you can do or cannot do.
You can allow them to buy, but you put a limit on it. And because the community, once the land is considered as a community land, the community can sell as many as they wish to sell.
Right. Because I was in Bannersville, the guy we bought, was on the land. He sold so much land until he himself, he had nowhere. There's a little mud house with a club.
Is it those who are selling the land behind Bannerville Estate?
Yeah.
Yeah, those people they're man people. They sold their town also. They sold the place, they sold their town. That's what happened to them. But the issue with that is that some of their children have gone to school, so maybe their father sold the piece of property when their letter of administration expires, so the children can come back and claim the land from people who bought it. So that's another issue that people need to pay attention to.
And we're talking about this land ownership, unless dual citizenship law passed, Liberians can own land, natural born Liberians who took on another citizenship. And Johnson keep asking this question. He said Lebanese cannot get land ownership. Oh, Liberia got a non-Negro descent. So if you are non-Negro, you can be Liberian citizen. So Lebanese are not Negro. So,
but you have to work on the law if they want to
yeah, so that's a whole new thing. But here's the thing. It is not just, even though we're talking about land, but if you are not Liberian, say, or you are natural born Liberia, you came and took U.S. citizenship or Ghanaian citizenship or the Turkish citizenship, wherever, you cannot own land. And more to that, like in the case of T. Jallo, he can't even practice law in Liberia. They say he was supposed to be the hearing officer in the NEC case. They say you cannot because you're not Liberian. Yep. It also means, and I'm trying to extend it now, maybe our counselor can comment on that, that even if you're supposed to be a nurse or a medical doctor, you are not a Liberian, you can practice, even though you were born right there,
They were discriminated against you. So the Liberian Medical Association.
So this thing is extending, and it's getting scary.
The Liberian Medical Association, comprising of nurses, doctors, and so forth, they have a law that you must be a Liberian citizen to practice as a medical doctor in Liberia. And they will not, if you took your degree from here. Dr. Zumo, for example. Dr. Zumo may be able to open clinic and put nurses there to work, but he himself may not be able to work as a doctor if he's a U.S. citizen.
The U.S. citizen.
And it goes to the nurses. It goes to people who are accountant. The what do you call it? The accounting association, or the what do you call it? The PCA or CPA association. Those people will stop you also. The engineer also will stop you. So you get your engineering degree here, you can build many bridges in the United States. As far as you go to Liberia, they will tell you no. It's all about you not bringing anything that will suppress them, or they'll be afraid of you. That's all. And those laws are there.
I meant say with respect to Liberian naturalized Americans not having the legal rights to hold fee simple rights.
What you mean holding deed?
I think you say forfeit. Okay, to hold rights to land in Liberia. What if you inherited your land before acquiring citizenship of another? Like in Dodo Kenya, I get my. So, are you saying that the law is such that the individual will forfeit
You
legitimate inheritance?
You know what is happening? Your brothers and sisters you left behind there, who have gone to school and have gotten to a university or Liberia, and maybe some of them gone to law school. You go back and say, our father have 50 acres of land here. We got rubber farm, cocoa farm, everything on it. I want to see how they develop it. They say, develop what? You say the land our father like, you say, no, you're not our brother any longer. You are our brother, but you American citizen. So the land here, we supposed to take care of it. You go to court, they will win you. Until the law is changed to allow dual citizen to have that. You don't have it. You can't even own a house. You can lease a house, but you can't own it in fee simple.
So you can you send money to your brother or your sister to build a house.
Yeah.
By the time you get there, they go inside when you.
Let me tell you, there's a lawyer called Councilor Dave Jala. He taught me at the law school. Dave Jala died, I think, like maybe 2 years or 3 years ago. His wife and children here in Atlanta, Georgia, I think. But he got older children, in the 30s and up there. So the wife went to Liberia. They were not living together for a long time. Dave Jala had just won a case and got $7.5 million in that case. The money was in the bank. The wife went to Monrovia to get a letter of administration to be able to get hold of the money and the house and other property he has there. And then one of the Dave Jala family people on the other side called me from Maryland, area, and said, Councilor Jewel, we want you to represent us against Dave Jala's wife and his children. The children and the wife, they are U.S. citizens. We got their document to show that they are U.S. citizens.
Yeah, man.
We don't want them to put a hand on the money that Dave left. And the man left a mansion. He bought like 5 or 10 acres of land, built very big mansion there. Somewhere called Banjo area there.
Yeah.
And then I said, you want me to go to court to represent you against this one? I think he was a cousin or the brother today that I was calling me. So I said, you want me to go to court and represent you against the woman and her children? He said, yeah, we'll pay you 100,000. So I said, no, we want 1 million. We cannot take 100,000. He said, oh, Councilor, you're not serious. I said, I'm telling you, I'm serious. But what I was saying to him is that Dave Jala taught me at the law school. I would not be the one to go to court to fight his wife and his children. It was 1 week after they buried him. And because you got all their birth certificate, whatsoever, not birth certificate, naturalization certificate. I said you can find another lawyer, but Councilor J will not go to court in the Dave Jala case. I have no interest in doing that. And that's what we close the matter. But they were ready to pay me 50% of the $100,000 to go to court, and we're going to win because the woman and her children, they all have U.S. citizenship. But my problem was, are you going to fight this family? Are you going to put the family in fire? Because that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Can they not sit down and talk about why it is, who should benefit from what? And even the person who was calling was an extended family. Tana Dave Jala brother, his older brother, there were two. The older brother was a Dr. Edwin M. Jala. That one died a long time ago. And Dave was the last person who, very, very, very good, very good lawyer, very tough lawyer. He died, and they buried him 1 week. Then we're going to go to court to start fighting the woman and her children. The Dave Jala Jr. There's another one she called. The Dave Jala was a bastard guy. There's another one called Mahdi. All the children there, he named them with all the bastard names, the family people there. You go to court to go fight? No, I told them no, I'm not interested in doing that.
Nan Brense, is deed of interstate person voidable?
Is deed of interstate person voidable? The answer is yes and no. Voidable in that if the administrator documentation, the letter of administration, the administrator oath, the decree or say all that one expired a long time ago, then is in fact it's a voidable deed. Reason that meaning voidable, it can be challenged and it will fall. If everything else is in place, then the deed is not viable, it's a valid deed.
Councillor, thank you so much. I think we have to do part 2 of this.
No, this is a very important
I
subject.
don't think we even scratched the surface because they are in the next one, please leave the Bassa people alone. Let them go across the canal.
When you go to the riverside, you can call the people, right, by putting your hand to your mouth and make the sound like you're calling them from across the river. My cousin told me that somebody will come to the edge of the river and look across the river and see. No, that one don't belong in the town.
That person looks like a stranger, so.
But there is no canoe there because you cannot get in the river to cross. They have to bring the canoe from the other side to cross you.
And then they make you scared. All right, yeah. Let's conclude. Let's get a brief summary, and then we can close the night.
Well, as I said, this is a very interesting and touchy subject. Land issue will affect anyone who is in the United States and elsewhere. You can even be here and buy land in your auntie's name, and the seller to you may not have owned the land and has no authority to sell it. And therefore, you are spending a lot of money to build your family person home, and yet they will kick them out of there. So it's important to pay very good attention to it. Know the differences between a public land sale deed, a private land deed, an administrator deed, and what all the things that go along with it. I'm happy to repeat them the next time so that we can be able to summarize it for people to know, because I bet you most Liberians here who have gone to Liberia and boasting now in the United States that they got property in Liberia, their property got legal issue.
Yeah, I told you already, right?
Yeah, and that's it. What some people have been doing is that they have been going back and having the administrator to work with the probate court to nullify those sales, but then reinstate it. What I mean, if you sold 10 acres of land and you didn't have the right to sell it, the court will nullify it. And you can file a petition for the letter of administration to restate it, and then they will issue a new deed, and so the deed will become void or viable, because when they sold it, the deed they gave to you, they didn't have any right to sell it to you. But when they reinstate it and issue a new deed on the deed that was reinstated, then your property can be good. That's another way to get around it.
Thank you. Anytime we encourage our folks, if you are watching us and you are watching us on the big screen, please send us a screenshot of watching Focus on Labrador on the big screen. Yesterday, during our show, Tavina Cole was watching us on the big screen, and she sent this report. And she sent this screenshot. So if you are watching us on the big screen, send that to us, and we're going to show it. Guess what? Focus on Labrador is now on Prime FM 105.5 in Monrovia. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. local time in Labrador. I like to call it Labrador Standard Time, LST. We're going to be hosting a debate, 2023 electoral debate comes so early. So tomorrow, we're going to be hosting a debate. Two guys who support President Weah in the CDC will go against two guys who support Mr. Alexander Cummings and the ANC. And we're going to be looking at 4 major issues. One, the Invincible Sports Park. Somebody saying this is a waste of money and upside down priorities. Others saying this is the best thing that ever happened to the country since 1822. We're going to look at the fight against corruption, and we're going to look at the corruption cases at the NPA, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, and look at them to see whether the government's fight against corruption, they are winning, losing, or not even trying. We're going to look at security issues, and the issue of mysterious deaths in Liberia will be high on the agenda. And last but not the least, who is behind the coming court case? People from the ANC saying the government is doing it. People from the government side say Cummings and the CPP people, they have themselves to blame. So we're going to have a serious debate tomorrow. Prince Sharif, a.k.a. Weaberian, and Choppy Charlie, a.k.a. Rachel Ure, will go against Anthony Gay and Monica Sen. You don't want to miss that live on Prime FM. And also Focus on Labrador. And guess who? I will be your moderator. Again, Councillor, thank you so much for coming. Always a pleasure to have this FOL Justice Forum tonight. It was a good one, and I believe our audience and even those who are going to watch later enjoy it. We want to thank our viewers for always keeping it here and focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. By far, the best platform you can find anywhere in Liberia, internet or diaspora or television, right here. Focus on Liberia. So many programs, so many shows, so many rich content that we give you, and you can't get that anywhere else. Until then, we want to play our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Whether you support the practice of the Bassa people going across or not, we are all Liberians. Whether you get the land illegally and the D, you just get one D, you don't have the mother D and you ran back. We are all Liberians, man. And all these things, as we work together hard, all these issues will be resolved one day. So let's close with the song that says, "We are all Liberians." Good night and love you all.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.